welcome to the Chirp Podcast. It's Leanne Scott, and today we have Andy Kriebel. So Andy has just started a new business, and he is an expert in data, which I know that every single startup founder is delving into and looking at all these numbers on spreadsheets and thinking, how the hell am I going to deal with this? So I'm really excited to speak to you today, Andy, and I can't wait to hear what you're working on and where you're going with it. So to start, please can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you ended up in the UK?
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. So my name's Andy, as you mentioned, and I'm actually currently in the middle of resigning from my job. So I'm in limbo here of starting the business and not, but more or less I can go ahead and start doing things now. But I ended up in the UK because of the work that I do. So back in 2007, I happened to run across this program called Tableau when I needed to create a dashboarding project. And I'd been working in data for a long time, mostly in spreadsheets, though. I was an underwriter before that, but I got this project from the director of our team. I was at Coca-Cola at the time, and it said, "Hey, Andy, we've got this project we're working on. We need to have this kind of regular reporting for our finance teams. Can you build me a dashboard?" And I knew that what he was thinking couldn't be done in Excel. So I did what every great data analyst does, and I went to Google and I typed in dashboard software, and Tableau software was the first thing that came up. And the article, the kind of snippet that shows up was like, "Oh, build business dashboards quickly, helps you do blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll give it a try." So I downloaded it, installed it, and had the whole project done in 30 minutes. And from that day, 16 years ago, I've probably used Tableau almost every single day. It's become literally my life, and that's what I'm going to be doing for my business.
So do you have to be a data scientist to actually really use Tableau and get the best out of it?
Absolutely not. And anybody can use it. It's super, super simple. It's just drag and drop. So if you're familiar with, let's say, pivot tables in Excel, it's the same kind of concept. You put something on the columns, something on the rows, but Tableau is really good because it creates the charts for you. So if you start by putting, let's say, some kind of something you want to measure, like sales or profit, into the view first, and then you say, "I want to split it up by my product category," Tableau automatically create a chart for you that it thinks is based on the best practices. So it's got all those principles of best practices built into it as well, which is really useful for people that are new to data visualization because most people aren't versed in it, right? It's a very unusual thing to know a lot about data visualization, but Tableau makes it super simple to just drag and drop things and create the visuals you want. There's lots of free training materials out there. I run a YouTube channel, so it was the first ever Tableau YouTube channel. I have a blog, which is the first ever Tableau blog. I've been at the forefront of helping develop all this stuff around the community.
And if I remember correctly, you're also an author of a book.
I am indeed. Yeah, I wrote a book called Makeover Monday, and it is based on a project that my partner Eva and I used to run together. And the idea behind that project is you look at a visualization that you think could be improved, and then you take the data and you try to make something better. But part of that along the way is you need to understand what works and what doesn't work about that original visualization. So there might be parts of it that you think are great. And you're like, "Oh, I'm going to keep those things." But maybe the title's terrible, or they use the wrong colors, or there's lots of different things you can do to improve a visualization. So I run a live stream every Monday where I actually show people how I do that. So every week I do an hour and a half live stream. I don't know how many people tune in. Doesn't really matter. I enjoy doing it. But people can learn my process for going from the beginning to the end. And that's what that's what the book is based upon. It's actually a tool agnostic book, though. Most of the pictures that are in the book are from Tableau, just because that's the audience that created the visuals for us. But the principles that are in there are tool agnostic. Things like effective use of color, effective use of text, which charts to use, the kind of basic principles. So it's a great book for people that are getting started in data visualization.
Amazing. So I reckon that, and I don't know whether you've thought of this, but actually that would be a really good tool for marketers and digital marketers when they start looking at how to present information, especially on social media, like we do at Chirp.
Absolutely. Yeah. Things like Chirp, you have to be able to understand something, get somebody's attention in a second. If you build something that's complicated, nobody's going to understand it. They're going to scroll right past it. And that's the idea behind dashboards as well. When you design a dashboard, It has to be able to capture the attention and engage the audience and keep their attention while they're using the dashboards. And that's a lot of the principles I teach.
Brilliant. So I'm thinking from a startup point of view. So startup founders obviously are building these amazing tech apps and web apps and platforms, and they are needing to use quite a lot of data. Do you think it's worth them building their own data visualization tool? Or do you think it would make more sense don't reinvent the wheel, use Tableau so that part's done and just focus more on what they actually do?
Yeah, the classic consultant answer is it depends. But if you're a new company and if that's the space that you're in, is building apps and things, and you want to learn how to do that and it's a product you're going to then sell, then go for it. But if you're not, so for example, probably your business, you don't want to go building a data visualization tool. Use something like Tableau that's really easy to use. It's not expensive. You can get a license. I don't know how much a license is these days because it keeps changing, of course, but you can get a single license and build the visuals you need, create the reports you need, and you're good to go.
Brilliant, brilliant. And how is everybody wants some AI, form of AI in their business is the current buzzword, but how is AI influencing the way you present and collect data?
As far as collecting data, it doesn't really, I haven't run across use cases where the AI actually collects data because you're really just having a conversation with the AI and it only gives you back what you ask for. So it doesn't actually it doesn't collect data for you. It might go find data, but it doesn't actually connect to a system and collect the data. So for example, I use it sometimes to build dummy data sets. So I want to show off a technique that I learned when I was working with a customer, but of course I can't use the customer data. So I use ChatGPT to help me write a Python script that's going to give me the fields that I need with the types of fields I need, whether it's location data or time data. What are the sort of fields I need, like sales or profit? And I can give it different weights for different things. And I want to randomize whatever it might be. And then it'll spit out you can have it first generate a table for you. It does a really good job of saying, hey, give me 10 rows so that you know what it looks like. But then once you're done that, you say, hey, I want 50,000 rows of this data. It'll actually generate the Python code for you instead. And then it really speeds up the process. But I love how you could just have that conversation and go back and forth, say, oh, that's not quite what I was looking for. Can you change this instead? And I find it absolutely brilliant that way. Now, when it isn't great right now at doing data analysis itself. It doesn't seem to know enough about data analysis processes. And it knows about data analysis processes. It doesn't know how to apply those processes yet. So a tool like ChatGPT is not a tool you use for data analysis. People do, and they present wrong findings. You still have to have that human intervention and those checks to make sure that it's what you're looking for. There's some of them that will generate charts with AI, but again, those are usually not great. And they're typically pretty simple. It's nothing horrible, but there's a lot of things it doesn't know how to do.
Okay, it's amazing. One of my clients, the app guys, when I ask him the question, will ChatGPT replace the app guys? He always goes off on a tangent. He's like, no, it won't, because it can't write the code in the same way that a human can. It can speed up the process in different ways. I suppose that's exactly the same for you. Yeah. And the same for Chip. We use AI tools to speed up our process, but we cannot depend on them in isolation because otherwise the content just isn't that good.
Yeah, and I think if people aren't using it to supplement the work they're doing, they speed up the work, then they're going to fall behind. If I'm doing a piece of analysis and I'm stuck for ideas, I will go to ChatGPT and say, okay, this is where I am. Give me some ideas on what I could ask next. And it does a brilliant job of that.
Yeah, brilliant. So I noticed that you put up a post very recently on your LinkedIn about how you use AI every single day. Tell us a bit more about the ways that you use.
I remember this. I remember this post. It came up because I turned 50 this summer, and the worst thing is trying to plan a party for about 30 people and have any idea how much food to buy. And so we decided, let's see what ChatGPT can do for us for planning our party. Right. So I went in there and I said, okay, it's an American themed party. We're going to have about 30 people, this many adults, this many children. They generally will probably drink about this much each day. This is the type of stuff they like to drink. We've got 3 vegans and 4 vegetarians. Everybody else is meat eaters. Give us an idea on what we should do for the party. right? And it says, okay, you're doing an American themed party, so you should probably have hamburgers and hot dogs and all these different things. It's, okay, great. But we don't really like that kind of food. We like this instead. And it'll pump out another list. And oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, create us a shopping list. And it created us exactly the stuff we needed for the shopping list. And they were like, okay, we have that now. Can you create recipes for each of those things? And it created every single recipe that we needed to do for them. I mean, it was so fun to do. It was really neat. But for myself, other than silly things like that, I use it a lot for writing. I use it to help me create outlines for things. I use it to supplement my work, to generate ideas, to give me outlines for maybe my newsletter or for a blog post or something, or for LinkedIn. I use it to help me create hooks for LinkedIn. And it's been really useful and sped up the time to produce content, which means I can produce more content.
So speaking of producing content, you've got quite an impressive YouTube channel following, and your views are just phenomenal. What's it, 6.4 million views since 2006. So tell us a bit about how you go about creating content for your YouTube channel and how you built up your following.
The content, a lot of it comes from questions from people. I get emails, or I post something on LinkedIn and somebody has a question, or I post a poll. What are you looking to learn? So I don't create the content. I get people to create it for me because I want to understand what their problems are. And then I'm going to create content that answers their problems. And then when I create that content, I put it on YouTube, I put it on my blog, I then post those to LinkedIn. And people then start engaging it, and then they see the videos more, right? And then they start subscribing, and it just snowballs from there. So I didn't do anything paid or anything like that to advertise the YouTube channel. It just grew organically. And it seems like with YouTube, the more it grows, the faster it grows. I don't know if that's, I guess they start serving your content up more. But there's only like myself and 2 other people that produce a lot of Tableau content. So that kind of helps as well.
Yeah, so with any of the social platforms, the key is that the more you do, the more you get rewarded by the algorithm, and the more humans you attract. That's often the biggest worry that people have, is around posting every day on any of the platforms. What's your thinking around posting every day?
Well, on YouTube, I post at least twice a week, every week. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years, something like that, every day. I think it might even be, anyway, let's say 10 years, something like that. YouTube is now used to posting my content, and I can see it in the metrics, like when it shows my content, and people are used to seeing my content on certain days because I always do it on the same days. So I used to do this thing called Tableau Tip Tuesday, because every Tuesday I put out a tip on YouTube, right? The nice little alliteration. And we do Makeover Monday. Every Monday I do a live stream. And I started another community project called Workout Wednesday, where it's like a challenge in Tableau. So I would do those as live streams as well. So I was doing every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was doing a live stream. So YouTube got used to my rhythm in that, and it rewarded me for the consistency. As far as for me, my rule when creating content is there's never a draft. Never, ever a draft. If I'm writing a blog post, if I'm writing a LinkedIn post, there's no such, I'm not allowed to do a draft. Because when people do drafts, they don't post them, or they overthink them. And then by that time, they're behind on whatever their goals might be. So don't worry about it if it's not, there's no such thing as a perfect blog post. There's no such thing as a perfect video or a perfect LinkedIn post. Just get the content out there, get yourself in the habit of writing, and your writing will improve if you do it more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the same thing that I see with customers and clients, is that they're so busy overthinking it that they just don't get the content out there. Whereas the way we work is it's 1 hour, let's talk as fast as we can, get as much information, and then step away. So that we don't have the bottleneck, because most often it is the founder themselves that become the bottleneck. And so things don't get posted, which is why we do the posting and scheduling as well. Brilliant. So now let's look at you as a founder. So you've been in work as an employee for the last 10 years, probably longer, with a 50th birthday this year. But what made you decide to take the leap of faith into the world of entrepreneurism?
Yeah, so when I moved to the UK in 2015. Prior to that, I was running the whole data visualization and Tableau training for Facebook. And I love doing that work. And then my ex now, we were in London for a conference that I was presenting at. And we were like, you know what, let's move abroad. We've always wanted to have an international experience for our kids. We were going to do one in Vietnam that fell through. But we're like, you know what, this is pretty safe. It's an English speaking country. They speak some form of English here. It's a bit weird depending on where you are in the country. But so I helped actually start a data training program here in the UK for the company that I work for. So I got to see how to build something from the beginning. What I didn't see was how to do it from the business side. So that whole part of this entrepreneur thing is completely new to me. I have lots of questions for people, and I know I'm being annoying with the questions, but I want to make as few mistakes as possible, like writing a contract. I've never done that before. I don't know how to write a contract. But as time has gone on and the training program has evolved and we started hiring more coaching staff, that meant that I was doing less and less teaching. But that was intentional by me because I thought as a leader, I needed to give other people opportunities. And if we're going to hire these people to do coaching for us, they need to have the time to do the coaching. And if that means I have to pull back from that, then fine. So my role changed a bit and I did much more like evangelizing about the data school. Everything that I do publicly is good for the reputation of the data school because I'm seen as the person I am the data school basically. But it's gotten to the point now where everything's really smooth. I was off for paternity leave for 3 months. Nothing fell apart. And I just started thinking about, it was the first time I ever had paternity leave. So I had 4 other kids, got 0 days total for those. And so when I resigned on Tuesday, I told my boss it was actually his fault for giving me paternity leave because it's made me realize that I can actually watch my child grow up where before I couldn't. And I want that to be a bigger priority in my life. And I'm going to limit the amount of hours that I work. I'm only going to work 3 days a week because it's really helped me see I can do things a bit different. And I can only do that if I work for myself. And so I'm going to do similar work. I'm going to have a video content platform for people, for companies or individuals to join. I'm going to end up creating training courses, and I'm going to do training classes for organizations as well, and probably do some masterminds here and there for the public.
Amazing. So best soundbite of the day, never give your best employees time off.
Now, he was really happy for me and excited for me. And he said, I guess there's no talking you into leaving, is there? And I said, there's not, or into staying. I said, no, there's not. He's okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing that you've at least had that experience of building something that can work without you, which you've proven now with taking that paternity leave off. And tell me from like a mindset point of view, how are you feeling now that you've like fully taken the leap? You've given in your resignation.
Yeah.
Although you still have notice period to work, being off during paternity leave, you still had a bit of a safety net. Now it's time to perform. How are you feeling?
Terrified. I've never been my own boss. I've always made a bit of money on the side doing some YouTube or a training class here and there or something like that, but never to the extent that I'm going to have to do it. But I've joined coaching programs. I have a coach for LinkedIn. You and I are both on Dave Martell's program. I've been doing a lot of reading. I watched videos by Stu McLaren, who's a membership expert. And I'm like, it's ticking all these boxes when I hear these things. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, I'll find a job. I'm not worried about it. So I don't have the anxiety of if it fails, I'm screwed. But I also think over the course of the 16 years I've been using Tableau, I've built up a lot of goodwill with people because everything I've done for 16 years has been free. And I've had customers come to me and say, we want to license your content that's on YouTube now. I guess they probably could download it and then just upload it on their own servers. But they've both said to me, you've given us a lot over 16 years. We feel like we should give you something. And I was blown away that somebody would want to pay me for this stuff. But then it gives me all these ideas on things I could do and how I could scale something like that and how I can do it without how I can build the machine that builds the machine, as Dan likes to say. Yeah. But I want to do it by myself. I don't want to have employees. I'm considering having limits on what I do. For example, I can teach this many cohorts in a year. When I get to that capacity, I tell the customers no for the rest of the year. Could I probably hire people to help me with that? Yes, but I don't want to have HR nightmares. I don't want any HR, but maybe I outsource some things, right? Maybe I bring in some people on a contract basis or something like that. I do that with my videos. I don't edit my videos. I send them to an editor to do. And accounting, I've already got an accountant, a freelance accountant that's going to do that for me. Somebody with that experience where I don't want to have to deal with those things. And I can focus more on what I want to do for the business and for my life.
Amazing. Obviously, you've got a fantastic personal brand. How do you think that personal brand and the power of personal brand has really leveraged you up and given you the confidence to take this leap?
If I didn't have my personal brand, I couldn't do this. I'm fairly sure I couldn't. It would be, I shouldn't say couldn't. It would be significantly more difficult because I have a really strong network of people that I can go to and say, hey, I'm available for help now. Are you interested? And they've been like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Then they're like, let's get on a call and chat. And I'm starting to see a lot of commonality between the challenges these companies are having. So when I talk to the next person, I've got a bit more information to talk to them about. But I think it would be much more difficult without my personal brand because the connections would be harder to make. And I've built up trust with the audience over the years.
And do you think that video has played a significant part of that journey?
Yes. A few years ago, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it seemed like everything switched from blogs to YouTube. So I used to write out all of my tutorials with picture screenshots and things, and it would take a really long time. But then I started seeing where stuff I had been putting on YouTube was getting more views. And then they started to switch around. So I used to get 150,000 views on my blog a month. And now it's down to maybe 70 or 80,000 per month. So it's been cut in half, but that's all moved over to YouTube. And now YouTube is growing. But I think people are finding the video content much easier to consume because they can pause the video along the way. They hear me explain it rather than trying to read me explaining it. And it's actually, they feel like they're getting to know me as well. So like when I go to the Tableau conference, people stop me to take selfies with me, which I think is really weird.
Amazing.
I just know this piece of software really well. And it's, can I have a selfie with you? I'm like, okay. But it also means a lot that people appreciate what I do for them. But video is definitely where it is now. So I still write my blog, but basically my blog just has the video embedded inside of it.
Amazing. Cool. Okay. Very good. Now, I have got to ask you, Facebook.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that journey with the data? Facebook's this algorithm god that nobody can quite figure out. Tell us your secrets.
Yeah, I didn't work in that part of the business. So I was at Coca-Cola when I got hired by them. And actually, my personal brand is what got me the job at Facebook. If I hadn't been blogging, they wouldn't have known who I was. And video wasn't a thing then. And that was back in 2012. So if I hadn't been writing my blog, I would have never gotten that job. I wouldn't be doing what I'm going to do. Again, it goes back to that value of writing and personal branding and getting content out. It was an incredible place to work. I absolutely loved working there. I wouldn't have left if we weren't going to try an overseas experience. Loved working there. Mark Zuckerberg is just brilliant. I don't know if he still does or not, but when I was there, the company was pretty small. Probably maybe 1,000 employees. And he would do a Q&A every Friday in the cafeteria. And it was incredible. He would do announcements and things, and some other people would come up and talk, but then he would just do an open Q&A. And to hear somebody with a vision like that, and the way they think about what they want to do and where they want the company to go, and it was enthralling to me. And he's a genuinely very nice person. He gets a bad reputation, but he does want to do good for the world. But of course, you got shareholders to answer to as well. But I really bought into the mission of Facebook. But the data there is it's incredible, the volumes of data that they work with. So that was one of our challenges, was how do we use Tableau to connect to data that's this size? So we worked with Tableau on that. So we helped pilot a lot of things for them, but that was always a challenge. And I know people are worried a lot about privacy, but you are not allowed to look at any user identifiable data without the user's permission. For example, if you report a bug that you find in Facebook. I have to directly contact you and get you to say, yes, you can look at what happened at that moment on my my session or whatever it might be. And they only get that really finite amount of information. Other than that, if somebody looks at personally identifiable data, they get fired immediately. There's no questions whatsoever. You're automatically gone. And I've seen it happen. I've seen security show up, escort somebody out the door.
Wow. I think that should give people a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah.
I think where you, like you were saying, you started writing your blog, say 2012. And if you think of what we have access to now and the way that we can grow our startups and our small businesses using the power of Facebook and the power of LinkedIn and Twitter and all the social media platforms, I think it's such a shame that they get such a bad reputation. It's been immeasurable in seeing how you can grow something from nothing by being on social media.
Without Facebook, LinkedIn wouldn't be used the way it is. Instagram probably wouldn't exist, or it might exist, but not at the scale that it does now. It wouldn't have the advertising model built behind it to help entrepreneurs get seen. It's been fundamental in driving so much of the way businesses work now. Unfortunately, there's bad actors that abuse it. And those are the people that are reported about. The 99.99% of people who are really good and good people and use it for the right reasons are never talked about.
Yeah. Amazing. So it makes me think of, from a startup point of view, startup founders, we're always talking about you have to have a vision and the power of your vision to get your investors on board, to get customers on board, and to get the team to follow you. And I think that your story around what Mark Zuckerberg is so powerful in illustrating the power of a vision.
Yes.
What do you? Yeah.
And that happened at the company I'm at now, or that I'm leaving. The boss is a very visionary person. He treats people well. He trusts people. He's got a vision for where he wants the company to go, and he shows people how to follow, and he demonstrates how he wants people to treat other people and behave. And that's the same thing I saw at Facebook. And that's the same thing that I want to show for the customers I work with is this is how I'm going to behave. I expect you to do the same. If you don't, then we just won't work together. And I don't have any problem with telling people no, because I want to work with good people. I don't want to, why should I put myself through an experience of having to work with a terrible customer?
Yeah. And there are some of those, unfortunately, as well. But that is one of the beauties of being an entrepreneur, is that you get to choose your customers and you don't have to put up with the same shit that you would otherwise, because you get to call the shots.
Yeah. If I don't like my boss, it's my own fault, right?
Exactly. You have the power to change it.
I can fire myself.
Which brings me to my next question. As you mentioned, we are in Dan Martel's coaching group together. Yeah. And that has been a really interesting journey in terms of how we become our best self. Yeah. What are some of the things that you've changed about the way that you work, the way that you live, that you've learned within the coaching group that we're in to become the best version of you?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, I think, has been the kind of implicit accountability to each other. Nobody's really checking on. Dan says he's checking on us, but he's not. There's no way he can check on us. I don't ever post on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and that's where he is all the time. So there's no way he knows if I'm doing my 3 social posts per day. But anyway, and it's helped me build a routine. It's helped me stay focused, and I feel like I see the benefits of that changed behavior. I see it in just my everyday life. I feel better about myself. I feel like you accomplish something every day just by doing those 5 daily non-negotiables. I'm learning German as well. And I've done a German lesson every day now for, I think, 75 days in a row. And my partner's German, so it helps when I go to Germany. And I think I should do it for her and her family. Yeah. And so it's given me like laser focus, I think.
Are there any days where you struggle to do those 5 non-negotiables a day?
Pretty much every day, particularly the opens that we have to do. So the opens are basically you have to contact, for those that haven't read Dan's book, you have to contact 5 people basically that either you don't know or are potential customers, or there has to be a reason that you contact them. I find that very difficult. I'm comfortable doing it. I find it difficult to find the people to contact.
Okay.
But the 3 posts every day, I don't really have any problem with that, but I think that's because I've built that habit up over 16 years.
Yeah.
I exercise every day. That's not a problem. What are some of the other ones? Reading. Actually, that's been one of the best benefits of it is I now read every day. And I hadn't read a book in ages. And now I'm like, I can't get enough. And it's, oh my God, who's this guy? But I'm taking so much, and that it has to be nonfiction books as well. So I'm trying to read books that are business related books or self-improvement, or like something like Atomic Habits or Dan's book, or sometimes I listen to books as well, but those don't count. I know those don't count, but we listened to a book called What About Men the other day, my partner and I, written by a feminist, which was super interesting. Caitlin Moran is her name. And so I try to be diverse with what I'm reading and listening to as well.
Very good. Brilliant. So the one that I struggle the most with is that daily exercise. I'm at my desk so many hours that doing the opens and doing the posts can fit in quite easily. But it's that daily exercise that I struggle most with, is to get up and get moving. Not because I don't want to, because I always need to be working. I've got that. I feel like if I'm not working, we're falling behind. But I know that you are a marathon runner and a triathlete, and you completed an Ironman. So how do you get into the habit, or how do you find, what advice would you have for someone like me who desperately wants to do CrossFit and all of that, but actually struggles to commit the time daily?
It has to be in your schedule. That's it. And you have to abide by your schedule. And also I had a coach. So that gave me accountability, accountability works really well for me. And also because I have a coach, I outsource the thinking. I just have to execute. It says, okay, tomorrow you need to do a 1-hour run. Okay, I just go do the run. I don't think about anything else. I trust that she's going to get me in the position I need to be in for race day. I just completely give all of my trust over to her. And that's been super helpful, because it takes time to figure out what you want to do. Where do you want to go and all this? And now it's just lace up my shoes, hop on the bike, and I'm out the door. So I've had that kind of routine for a long time with running and training and stuff. So that part hasn't been very difficult for me. But sometimes I don't run, or I don't bike, or I don't swim. So I'll do a power walk with my dog, something to get me sweating, because I walk the dog every morning as well as I walk her when I do my German lesson. So I've got this habit built now. Reading Atomic Habits has helped me think about these things that, she wakes me up between 6:12 and 6:14 every day. Very creature of habit, like dogs are. And then I try to get her to go back to sleep. She comes and bugs me again about 6:45. And then I get up, I brush my teeth and get out the door and do my German lesson and walk her, and I'm done by 8. And then I can start my day.
Brilliant. And tell me, what are you reading at the moment that you would recommend founders read?
Yeah, I am right now. I just started The Diary of a CEO, and that's by Stephen Bartlett, and that was really good. Or it is really good. It just came out last week, I think. I'm pretty sure it was last week.
I picked it up in the bookstore and put it down again, but
it's really good. It's broken up into 33 chapters. Each one is a law of running a business. And he's a really good writer, and he's really easy to understand, which helps. I don't want to have to do a lot of thinking when I read. The other books I read recently are Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. I'm looking next to me where my books are. And Atomic Habits, Buy Back Your Time, Exactly What to Say. What else have I read recently? I've done several audiobooks. And I do those when I mow the lawn, because it takes me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to mow the lawn, which is something I know I should outsource because of the time value equation. But I enjoy too much putting the stripes in the lawn. It has to be done.
Well, if you enjoy that, you are welcome to come do my lawn, because my husband hates doing the lawn.
I actually mowed the lawn in the neighborhood 2 weeks ago because I got sick of how high it was, because the council comes around half as often as they used to. So I mowed the lawn out there. It took me like 2.5 hours, but I was like, I can't stand it anymore. And then it looked great. It had nice little stripes in it. And of course,
the whole entrepreneur journey doesn't work out for you. There's an alternative.
There we go. Yeah. What was really, I wrote about it on LinkedIn. And one of the things that kind of frustrated me about it is There's a Facebook group for the neighborhood, and people complain all the time. Very British thing. British people love complaining.
Very.
It's a national pastime, I think. And they would constantly complain about mowing the lawn. So I was like, I can't stand these people complaining. I'm just going to do something about it. And I was there 2.5 hours, and 2 people stopped to say something out of all the cars that go by. And you could tell that I don't work for the council. I don't even have a tractor to mow the lawn with. I'm doing it with a push mower. And so I posted on the Facebook group, and I said, this is how you solve the problem. You just go do it. And you people that are complaining about the 3-foot wide strip of grass between the sidewalk and the road outside of your house, why don't 2 or 3 of you just walk together and get it done in 3 minutes? Or why don't we take a collection and everybody put a pound into a pot and pay some kid to do it? Give a kid a job. And everybody's, oh, great idea. Just go do it. People love talking about doing things, but they never do it. And that drives me absolutely insane.
That's a good thing, because I reckon that is going to be your secret to success as an entrepreneur, because there are lots of ideas, but the difference between success and failure is the doers versus. Wonderful. So I think we will leave it at that point. It has been absolutely amazing to speak to you and to learn all about what you've been up to. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so they can go to andykriebel.com, and that's where you can sign up. Sign up for my newsletter every Friday. I put out a newsletter with career tips, Tableau tips, other projects I'm working on, products I create, lots and lots of different things. So go there. That's going to end up being my website as well for the business once it gets going. And you can reach me on LinkedIn. It's just linkedin.com/Andy Kriebel. I'm on Twitter as well, but hardly at all anymore. Or X, it's called now. Those are probably, and then YouTube, of course. So it's youtube.com/Andy Kriebel. And my blog is vizwiz.com.
Amazing, amazing. I highly recommend that you go and have a listen to Andy's YouTube videos. His podcast is fantastic, and I know he's got quite an exciting series coming out very shortly. So it's well worth going to visit. Andy, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for joining and for chirping with me today. That's Leanne Scott from the Chirp Podcast.